My name is Kim McKown. I currently work with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation in the marine invertebrate, sturgeon, and cartilaginous unit at this point. I went to Stony Brook and I got my master's there back in the mid-'80s. And my first job was actually doing a trawl survey in the lower Hudson River and New York Harbor area. So that was my first introduction to the Hudson River. During my time period working with the diatomous unit, I was very involved with looking at impacts of the power plants on the Hudson River fisheries. And that's how I got involved, knowing about the different surveys being done on the biological monitoring program. We used to coordinate with the beach seine surveys to make sure that we weren't doing the beaches on the same week. So we were pretty intimately involved with what was going on. The plant was relicensed in the early 90s, and they had developed a draft environmental impact statement, which I was part of the review team for the department. And we had a number of issues on their modeling approaches. So we actually had spent a lot of time just looking at available biological data for fisheries and what would be best to use for different life stages to look at impacts from the power plants. My perspective as a biologist is we worked closely with a number of the biologists from the utilities companies to basically review and get our best estimates of entrainment and impingement impacts. And the environmental group also hired some consultants to help to do that also. I tried to stay away from the legal part of it, and I wasn't so much involved with permitting as involved with more trying to make sure that the best information and the best approaches were being used to determine impacts. In the draft environmental impact statement, they've looked at certainly striped bass, American shad. Those are the ones that jump out at me. And it's difficult to determine impacts because a lot of it depends on your spawner recruit relationships, which are very difficult to really lock down there. And in the long run, I don't think it was ever definitively determined that the power plants were affecting the populations, because you have population size is an interaction of your recruitment, and then also your fisheries, your different biological events. As I was saying, you know, some years we'd see lots of young of the year out in western Long Island, and other years very few. And that's probably a relationship between population size and probably environmental events, in particular, your flow out of the river.